In this video, I will organize my code and I will do it by writing a database class. So I need to organize this code so I can use it later in the future. I'm going to build an API and I'm going to need to use some functions here, but I need to keep them organized. Alright, so the first thing I have to do is write a class, and this is going to be a database class because it's going to work to connect to the database. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is declare a class database, and I need to construct that class. So in order to construct that class, I need to use the word construct, which is a function. So here I will leave space for my parameters here, and I forgot to declare it as a function. So function construct, and now I'm going to be able to construct my class. Okay, so why construct? So every time I make a new object with the class database, automatically I'm going to create a connection if I put all the connection code inside the construct function. So when I instantiate a class, a database class, so that's what's going to that's the code that it's going to run. So I'm going to say this connection equals, and I'm going to get this code over here. Or you know what? Actually, I'm going to get all of these over here. It's going to do a try and catch block, and instead of connection, this connection, because this is a property from the class database. So this connection equals new PDO, the object that is going to be helping to create a connection. And here the same thing. So I need to change connection for this connection. And here I want to do something different here. If the connection is not successful, what I want to do is that connection is going to be null. So there is going to be no connection, and I don't need this variable error. Okay, this is it. Okay, so what's gonna happen every time I make a new object with the class database? That's not what I'm gonna do. I'm actually going to extend this database class into the models for each one of these tables that I'm gonna have here in my database, in my tutorial database. Okay, so the first method that I want is display users. Display users. Okay, so here I'm going, and that's going to be a public function. Why public? Because every time I make an object of the class database, I want to say display users, and I want to be able to display users from uh, from another object. So let's say display. Actually, I'm just gonna copy it. Display users over here. But let's just see. This is going to be a public function display users. Now I don't need to say that this connection variable is global. All I have to do is get the property here, this connection, the property from database, this connection. So I don't need to use the keyword global. So all I have to do is say this connection query dot 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 SQL, this SQL over here. Okay, so I'm changing connection for this connection since it's the property here that is built in the constructor. All right, so I don't need to do anything here, and that's it. All I had to do was change this, and I don't need to state that it is a global variable. So I can now display users with this method. And the second thing I have to do is to insert users. So here I do need to create a function. It's also going to be public. Public, let's just say create users, and that's going to accept some arguments. So let me just create it over here, and I don't need this one. Okay, let's just copy it like this. Create users. All right, so this is a function create users. So insert into users name, age. So I need some parameters here. The first one is name, and it's gonna take this one over here for name, and the second one is age. Okay, that's what it's going to refer to. So name and age. All right. So let's just see, insert into users name and age, and here this is going to be the name over here that I pass here, and the age that I pass over here. Okay, this is throwing me an error. Let's just see what's going on here. Age, okay. So public function, display users, create users. Supposedly it is working well. Da, 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 da. Okay, I paused the video to work out the problem. So let's just fix these errors over here. So this is supposed to be disconnection, prepare, rows affected, and there is no display users, but this. Okay, so we're using this function over here, display users. So I'm going to say this display users. Okay, and still there's an error. I want to know what that error is. So I can't seem to know what that is. So let me see. Function construct public function users, public functions create users. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Create users. Oh, okay, so this is very common. So in PHP, we need to define the parameters with a dollar sign. Okay, so since I'm switching from JavaScript to PHP, um, sometimes I forget that I'm working on PHP. So PHP does require us to use a dollar sign. All right, so this should work now. So this is the function create users, name, age. Those are the only parameters that I'm going to use, and I don't need this one over here because remember in the last video, whenever we create a user, we're just going to display the users that we've already created. All right, so we already have the class here. Let me just recap that. So we have a class that is constructed um, by establishing a connection. So if that connection works, all of the connection information is going to be here, and that's going to be used here to query information from the database. Here, this is the property from this class. So now let's test that. Let's test that class over here by using the methods. So let's say that we're going to establish a new database object, and that's going to come off from this. That's coming from this class, new database. Uh, and here, if I want to construct something with arguments here, I will need to pass it to the parameters here in the construct function. But that is not the case. All we want to do is initialize a connection. So let's see one method. The method is database. So this is an object now from this class database. So we use an uppercase to initialize the classes, to name the classes, and just an object with a lowercase. So let's say database. What method am I going to use? Display users. So all I want to do is display the users with that method. So let's see if that actually works. So let's go here. Let's refresh this, and now it works. So what happens if I delete it? Nothing's gonna happen. There you go. So I'll refresh it here. But now that I have an object and I want to display the users from the database, you can actually change the name. You can just say DB, but when you're calling the methods that you define here in the function, you actually need to use the method here. So DB here. Okay, so let's Just refresh, and here you got all the users. Let me just take this off. I'm not working with JavaScript anymore. Okay, so we already have 6 indexes. So we have 7 elements here, and here is the database. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's now let's instead of displaying the users, we're creating the users. But remember, when we create a user with the arguments here, name and age, at the end, we're going to be able to display those users. Okay, so what if there is an error? I haven't done error handling here, so I'm going to do it here with, I don't know, let's do it with row count method. So let's just say if a statement, if statement row count. So this is going to be a number. If this is equals to 1, that means that everything was successful. But if it doesn't equal to 1, so I'm just going to say okay, there was an error inserting a new record. Okay, so let's just test that out. Instead of displaying users now, with this new object, I'm going to say create users, and I'm going to say that I want to add a person called Michael who is 33 years old. All right, so let's see what happens. So when I refresh here, I should see Michael in index number 7. There you go. So I refresh and you can see Michael, who is going to have an ID of 12 with the age of 33. What happens if instead of an integer, I do a 24? It's going to throw an error, and it's going to say there was an error inserted in a new record because there is no row count with 1 when the statement is executed. So let's just see what happens. All right, actually inserted is 24. Okay, you can also insert a string. Okay, so no error at all. All right, so let's just try, I don't know, minus 24. It actually inserts it as minus 24. All right, so how can I see that this thing didn't work? So let's just say I have an error in my execution here. I didn't execute anything here, and let's see if that still counts. Now there was an error inserting a new record because I forgot there is an error in my code, and I couldn't insert anything. That's why I don't have a 1 here. I don't have a row count number 1 because I didn't execute anything. All right, so I'm just going to leave it like this, and that's it. So I already have 2 methods in my database class, which I'm going to be using in other files in order to communicate with the database. All right, so I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, please ask on the comments below.